transition, before we go into the news, I want to tell you guys my Thanos sketch idea. Because I'm never going to make it. It's just like 3 separate segments of Thanos running a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And like he can't afford the employees, so he just wipes out
half the employees.
Manager's like, why didn't you just fire them?
There are too many people in the dining room, too many people waiting in line. Just snap his fingers.
Yeah.
Half the seats are open, there's half the line, everybody's happy.
And then it goes to one where Thanos is coaching a kid's soccer team, but they keep losing.
Fun isn't something one considers when coaching Little League.
He wipes out half the kids. And then the mom comes freaking out, and she's like, why'd you kill my son? He's like, don't worry, you can start fresh. I wiped out half the parents too. Your husband's dead.
Half of the people you hate on this field are gone. And
then the third one,
okay.
He's running like a store, like a Sephora.
Oh.
And people walk in, and it's too expensive. Yeah. So he's like, I'm gonna cut these prices in half.
And just the numbers dissolve.
I can see like an infomercial of Thanos in a suit going, are you looking to buy a car today but can't afford one? Well, you can't get a lease for $1,000 a month. Let's cut this in half.
I'm Thanos the Mad Titan. I'm slashing prices left and right. They said I was mad. Well, I'm mad about how expensive these VCRs are. Snap!
My girlfriend actually came up with that last part, and she got the funniest one. Happy Friday, Reject Nation. It's Greg, the G-Man. The J-Man. We got more Infinity War talk to do, right?
That's all the news that matters.
That's all the movie news that matters. Why talk about Bill and Ted 3?
Or Tenacious D's Pick of Destiny 2?
We don't need to. We're only going to talk about Infinity War when it comes to movie news from now on. Even when Avengers 4 comes out. It's going to be all about Infinity War. Before we do that, Patron of the Day shout out to JT, the man from Hawaii. JT, we usually do a Google Hangout with you once a month, buddy, but we didn't hang out with you last month. I'm flabbergasted. I am pissed. I am worried. I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's a wide variety of emotions. I feel like I'm going through a breakup right now because you're the only one on Patreon that we haven't talked to about Infinity War. We need to hear your opinion. We need to know your thoughts and feelings on the matter. Did Thanos wipe you out? Is that what happened?
Dude, what if Thanos wiped JT out? Although, I mean, I guess he missed out on the volcano, so that's looking.
Yeah. On to some movie news. I'm sure you guys are like, man, you take a long time to get there, right?
Hey, at least it wasn't an ad.
So, we got 3 things to talk about here. At least it wasn't an ad. The first thing I want to talk about is the big one, Groot's final line in Infinity War. If you guys haven't seen Infinity War, Groot is the only one who dies. I actually watched this a 3rd time. The 3rd time I watched this was my favorite time. I think it was because there's none of that crazy energy in the theater, which can aid in a movie going experience. But for a film like this, I'm aware I have to shoot a movie review right after. I gotta shoot a spoiler review right after.
Like, so much attention to every detail.
Criticize anything, I gotta really back my opinion up. This is 3rd time I saw it on IMAX 2D, and it was just a really relaxing experience. There was barely anyone in the theater. I was able to absorb the film, and it was the first time I watched it, because before I would say I loved a lot of it, this was the first time watching it, and I said, I just love this whole movie. A lot of the criticisms I even had, I actually would take back, and now that I'm able to just sit back and absorb it in a natural way. One moment that really got me was Groot's final line, because I had heard what his final line is.
Saw that tweet.
When I watched it the first couple times, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, he'll be back though, Knowing that Groot's final line is Dad, that he says to Rocket. Man, that got me teary-eyed.
Yeah.
When I watch it that time, knowing what he's actually saying emotionally really gets me, and it aids even more in Groot's whole arc in that movie. Groot is, he's just on his game the whole time. He doesn't really care about anything that's going on. Every once in a while, he peeks his head up to take a little bit of interest, decides to help out Thor, starts fighting in the battle. You see that he has a connection. He's like the son of former Groot, right? Like he's the biological son or something like that.
He doesn't have any of the memories or whatever, but he is like biologically based on Groot.
So it had me going like, maybe he's a guy who wishes he knew his actual real biological dad, but he sees Rocket as his father now, and he's that moment is
Rocket is his guardian.
It's a father and son moment, and that moment moment really got me teary-eyed, and I wish there was the one time I wish there was a subtitle.
Yeah, right. Hey, I mean, if Groot is an elective on Asgard, maybe they could bring it here someday.
Yeah.
Because, there are people who learn Elvish. I'm sure somebody will crack the Groot code.
Let's go on to the next one here. This one I think is very intriguing. Joe and Anthony Russo were talking about how there's so many things in the trailers that are not in the actual films. It's weird. This is the one time, I think, for a movie that had trailer footage cut up differently or shots that are just flat out not in the movie, not upset anyone. Other than the main shot, the one where they're all running and it's kind of like choreographed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, other than the main shot, people wanting that one moment, everything else, no one seemed upset about. I find it interesting how one of the biggest quotes of this movie is not in the actual film.
Fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, but this does put a smile on my face.
I've heard people complain about this phenomenon before. There are a lot of movies where it'll be like, oh, that scene, got me amped up for that, and it didn't even happen. And I feel like this movie has the right combination. Nobody really wants to know what actually happens in Infinity War. They just want to know what Infinity War is going to feel like and kind of hint at story-wise. They have found this weird place where I guess it's just sort of okay with people that they didn't give us
totally.
real footage in the trailer.
And then here's what Joe Russo had to say. We use all the material that we have at our disposal to create a trailer. We look at the trailer at a very different experience than the movie, and I think audiences are so predictive now that you have to be very smart about how you craft a trailer, because an audience can watch the trailer and basically tell you what's going to happen in the film. That's why we do trailers revisit. We consume too much content, so at our disposal are lots of different shots that aren't in the movie that we can manipulate through CG to tell a story that we want to tell specifically for the purpose of the trailer, not for the film. I think that's smart, because there's a couple of things I noticed, like when Spider-Man's zipping around, the closer to the second official trailer, they have that shot in the movie, except he has the legs out and he's swinging Mantis around.
Yeah, during the movie I was like, wait a minute.
yeah. And then you got asked about the shot, the hero shot. The shot that you're referencing was never in the movie version that you saw. It was never created for the movie in that version. It was literally created in that version for the trailer. In a way, it's kind of a moving poster.
In a sense. And I guess, you wind up with so much footage. They said, like, we can manipulate all this stuff with CGI, and I guess I don't... I understand the complaint that, like, it's false advertising, but at the same time, I'm like, you do have so much footage that is of and related to your movie, and yeah, if you can manipulate that in a way that gets the point across, especially in that, like you said, it's like a poster. It's just an image, it's not contextual that much.
Because technically, that scene of them all fighting, except for Hulk, that scene of them all fighting is all in the movie.
Yeah.
So if it's all in the movie, like, it doesn't really matter if you don't get that one cool shot, and it wouldn't have fit too. And I think that's the thing that people are not really complaining about with this film, is they're going, well, that wouldn't have fit. They acknowledge this line, fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, but this does put a smile on my face. What they said was that was a scripted line for the movie that we replaced with another line that we thought was a little more specific to the storytelling of Gamora. I think he used to say that on Nowhere to Gamora when he emerged from the reality cloak as the ether exposed him. And I think we changed it to something that was a little more specific to the storytelling. I put out a tweet saying fun isn't something one considers when lines from the trailer are not in the actual movie or something like that. A lot of people replied back, well, where would this line have gone? And that's true, because it wouldn't have worked for Thanos. The actual interpretation.
Fun.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been fitting for his character in that scene or a later scene.
Yeah, and that was one thing that was abundantly clear to me. Like, I can see how you could argue about the hero shot, but that line, especially having seen the movie at least twice, I was like, I can't figure out where that would have gone. This, again, would have been in a different movie version of Infinity War.
And then the last thing to talk about, which I find intriguing and kind of bullshit, to be perfectly honest.
Tom Holland improvised Scarlet Witch's accent. It's all him on the ADR.
So they were talking about why Scarlet Witch's accent was not really there. Here's what I want to say before we go into this. I have never thought Elizabeth Olsen did a good Russian accent. Never.
No.
I like
Not really.
It's always sounded pretty bad to me. I've always thought her performance is good. I've always thought her performance is fine, but the voice is not good.
She can emote through that accent. I'll give her that.
Yeah, no, she's a good, like, the emotional stuff is all there. It's just the accent itself is not the greatest. But here's what they said in regards regards to it. We have intentionally tried to strip that accent away for a couple of reasons. One is you'll notice at the beginning of Civil War that Black Widow is training her to be a spy. And two is she's been on the run, and one of the most distinguishing characteristics that she has is her accent. So if you're going to try to disguise yourself or hide yourself or not be caught, you're going to try to limit those trigger warnings that will make it easy for someone to identify you, which would be inclusive of her accent. Clearly, Black Widow as a redhead is an incredibly distinguishing characteristic for her, which is why she has blonde hair. Cap, we've seen Chris Evans walk around in public with a beard and no one recognize him. There are simple things you can do to your parents to take about 90% of your visibility away, and for us it was very intentional. We would just keep stripping that accent down to show her acclimating and hiding. While I don't think it's complete BS, I feel like it was a justification to get rid of her accent, honestly.
I think, yeah, they went, this isn't going well, and a lot of people were pointing it out. We got to do something.
It's kind of like Halle Berry in the X-Men trilogy, the original 3. Part 1 is like, she's trying an accent. Part 3, I'm like, she has no accent.
To me, this is one of those things is not like the others where I'm like, the other two examples are physical changes where I'm like, Scarlet Witch still looks exactly like Scarlet Witch. It's just if she opens her mouth, somebody nearby might not go, what is that accent? You know? So
craziness over there.
Always. At all times,
yeah, it's not a big thing. I just feel like this kind of should have been acknowledged in some capacity in either Civil War or Infinity War if this is an intentional thing, because this just leaves a lot of viewers going, what's happening to her voice?
I mean,
why is she trying even less now?
I don't think I've ever had that experience during a movie that I did during Infinity War where I was like, I'm distracted by the fact that this is different. However, I don't mind. I think that's actually probably a better idea.
Yeah, I say this for laughs. It's really not a big deal. All this Infinity War stuff has been a lot of fun. Over on Patreon, we're answering a lot of Q&A thoughts about, what we think is going to happen with Avengers 4.
It's Avengers month.
It's cool. It's cool. It's like the first time there's a Marvel movie that's come out where we're all talking about what's coming next. And it's exciting. It's really exciting stuff.
And it's not that divisive.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell because subscribe buttons don't really do the job. Check us out on Patreon. Full-length TV show reactions, music video reactions, because those usually get blocked on here like the last few that we've done. Woo! And also weekly Q&As. So love to have you become a Patreon Jack today.